Is there hope? Whenever you watch the news on Al Jazeera or we get news from Facebook Market, not from Marketplace, but Facebook or WhatsApp, we say, I always ask them, هل في أمل? Is there hope? Now, I really want to draw a parallel of what was and what can be. Now, to truly understand Sudan, we have to go back in its history. Sudan, the word Sudan translates to land of the blacks. Whoa. But it wasn't always known as the land of the blacks, it was known as Nubia or Tahetsi. And it's one of the most ancient civilizations in history. It's home to over 500 ethnic groups and 400 different languages. Now, during the expansion of the Islamic expansion out of Arabia, there was one by the name of Ibn al-Abbas, who was a cousin of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Now, he expanded Sudan into Egypt and then down south to, he expanded Islam down to Egypt, then down south to Sudan. Now, Islam entered through Sudan on two fronts, the north and the east. On the east, to give you guys a reference, it's a 40-minute boat ride from Port Sudan to Jeddah. Now, the Arabians heard of agricultural land that was vast, up for the taking. So they started trickling in slowly. And then they discovered the gold mines. And then that's when they all came. In the 13th century, Sudan had the massive Arab migration into Sudan. Now, with this, they started marrying and intermarrying with the local population. Now, it resulted to something truly unique. Sudanese people. And in music, we are more African. In behavior, we're more Arab. In tradition, that's where the two cultures truly collide. Sudan was a bridge between Africa and the Arab world. Majority of the Sudanese people have direct lineage to the Hijaz. Sudan is rich. It's rich in people, it's rich in resources, it's rich in water, and it was a breadbasket for the Arab world. It was also the #1 export in nuts, hence the term Ful Sudani, if you guys know what that means. It was a leading export in cotton and livestock. It was rivaling those of New Zealand and Australia. Now let's expand the window of the 20th century in Sudan. When I was researching this, I consulted my father. And I told him, tell me about your experience in Sudan. Like every old dad, the Sudanese dollar was greater than the American dollar. And he told me that University of Khartoum. So I looked into that. So University of Khartoum was the very first university to have a program that connected straight to the United Kingdom with likes of those Oxford and the University of London. Very first university in the world. University of Sudan was one of the greatest educational institutions in the region of both Arab and Africa. My father told me in 1956 to 1975, Khartoum, the capital of Sudan, was the peak capital in both Africa and the Arab world. A famous guy, maybe you guys know him, Malcolm X, he wrote in his journal entry in 1964 that, what did he say? Oh, yeah, there it is. He said, I'll never be ceased to be impressed by the Sudanese. But from 1975 onwards, there was a huge exodus. It was called the brain drain. The brain drain resulted in Sudanese elites, our doctors, our engineers, our academics, and they went to new emerging economies in Saudi and the Gulf countries. And that left Sudan with nothing. The reason why we call it the brain drain, because it was the drain of civil servants. It was a drain of human resources. And the issues that Sudan has today stems from that. In 2019, we heard the chants of the Sudanese revolution. الشعب يريد إسقاط النظام وهدفنا لدم الشهيد. Those are the chants being said. We had a revolution that took out our former president. During this period, I've firsthand witnessed 30 million people on the streets demanding change. And it was the first time in a long time where we saw the opportunity to uplift the condition we were in. I noticed one thing: they were happy doing it. They were on a notion of a mission of hope. In 2023, the so-called civil war broke out. Now, if you ask any Sudanese person, we don't call it a civil war. It is two powerful men playing a game of chess, and Sudan is their board. The reason why we all disagree is because a civil war would insinuate that the citizens have a disagreement amongst each other. But we don't have one. The condition of Sudan right now is severe. Many of my family members have left Sudan. For a country that had one of the most major importance in Africa and in the Arab world, 45 million people was the population recorded back in 2019. Now, over half of them are displaced. Rich, poor, Sha'abi guy selling nuts on the street. It affected us all. But the true fight is with the future and the future generations. So I posed the question when I started my speech: is there hope? And I'm giving you a very small, brief, TikTok-sized summary of the history of Sudan dating back to 3000 BCE, but there can only be one answer to that question, and it's a one-worded answer, and it's yes. Thank you.